order at 6 o'clock. If you can please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Deb, if you could establish quorum, please.
So we are missing Mr. Beckler and Mr. Collins this evening, prearranged absences. And everyone is logged into board docs, correct?
Yes.
And then Daniel Bradford will be joining us by Zoom, but we'll check to make sure she's there before her board report starts. Thank you.
And we'd like to welcome Brad Miller, our legal counsel, to tonight's board meeting. Okay, can I get a motion to set the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting's now available. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. So it looks like we have a few club presentations. I don't know who would like to go first, but we do have Destination Imagination from, looks like, I believe it's Lewis.
Good evening, board. I'd like to just get started with the presentations. Yeah, I think around November, I took over the gifted and talented coordinator position again, which I held 5 or 6 years ago. So along with that and with the new club sponsor that the district passed, we had some teachers and gifted liaisons that wanted to really get back into our gifted programming and do the Destination Imagination group, as well as Mesa wanted to do their chess club group. So just to be clear, these are for all kids in the district. We don't single kids out. Gifted and talented is for kids that are already identified gifted, but we also have a talent pool list. Those are kids that are showing strengths in a lot of areas. And we provide programming like this for all kids to really push those other kids to hopefully get them to increase their strengths in whatever area it may be. I think there are 14 areas kids can be identified gifted in the state. They're not all academic. The academic areas are the easy ones to find because we have STAR data. We have all this academic testing, but things like creativity, art, leadership, a lot of those areas don't get identified until the kids get into secondary school when they actually have maybe an art class and they can create a portfolio and things like that. The district has always offered Destination Imagination. For a while, we didn't have staff that wanted to participate in that and parents. But part of us kind of getting back after the pandemic was to get these programs going again. So I'm really fortunate that we had a lot of families and a lot of teachers in the elementary schools that really wanted to do this. And this really taps into the creative spirit of kids. And so it really helps for those other areas that I was talking about that aren't as easily to identify kids in. They may test really high on a cognitive test, but don't have an academic area. So we can use this other programming to help create that portfolio for the kids to really get them identified and encourage them and provide other supports. What I'd like to do is our sponsors at Kemper weren't able to be here tonight. And due to my lack of being tech savvy, I didn't realize the photos were on the tabs at the bottom of the spreadsheet they sent me. So I'm just going to hand out the Kemper photos. You can pass it down a little bit quick. Kemper had 17 to participate in Destination Imagination this year. Because the powerhouse in Durango actually kind of spearheaded it this year, they were not able to get over to Kemper to start their teams in time for them to do the whole DI is what it's called. Opportunities. So they did what's called a Destination Imagination Light, which means that they went in and did the instant challenges over at their school and then at our regional meeting. The Lewis team had the powerhouse people come in early before Christmas, which gave us maybe another month or so. So we were able to get a little more involved with it this year, but it was just a scheduling mix up with powerhouse. So Kemper had the 7 teams that participated locally at their school and then went to the regional competition over in Durango. And so they did the instant challenges and we had a lot of them take places in their division for that. The mission that Kemper established was to inspire and equip youth to imagine and innovate through the creative process. Some of the kids' responses afterwards is, I just have one word, fun. And another girl said, see, I am smart. Every child had an opportunity to share their unique creations and be celebrated for what they've accomplished. Their focus for next year is to start earlier so they can get more kids interested and do kind of more of a deeper dive into that. I'm going to let Ms. Robinson kind of go over the Destination Imagination Instant Challenges and the other things that we participated in, so you can get an overview of what that programming looks like. And then we'll have Mesa come on up.
So, let's see. Right. So this was the Lewis Destination Imagination group. We had 5 teams. We had 3, which are the early learning teams. And that is made up of students between kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. And then we had 2, competitive teams that were 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And this was our regional competition that we had in Durango. So the early learning, through Destination Imagination, they really only had one option of a challenge, and that was called Making a Splash. They had to produce a play about underwater sea creatures visiting a new habitat. We held team meetings once a week for 11 weeks for about an hour and a half. After school, students wrote a play with dialogue. They built all their own scenery, props, they created costumes, and they researched underwater habitats. And then they presented their play in Durango. They were not, it was not a competition for them. It was just a chance for them to show what they had, produced over the last couple of months. This particular team had a play about 2 tide pool sea cucumbers who visited a seahorse and a shark at the Great Barrier Reef. And again, they did all their own scenery. They researched the habitat and then wrote the play and created costumes as well. And this was our 2nd early learning team. And this one had a manatee going on vacation to the Great Barrier Reef and meeting a group of sharks. And you can see that they built a landmark out of recycled materials. Destination Imagination is very clear that they want students, very much building and solving these challenges on their own without a lot of adult help. We're there to supervise and facilitate, but it's very student-led. We're just there to help their vision happen. And then the older teams had a choice of between 7 different challenges offered by DI. And these categories range from fine arts to history, engineering, science, technology, and service learning. So like I said, we had 2 of these 3rd through 5th grade teams. One of them chose the engineering challenge. And this required them to design and build a catapult that was tested in 2 different configurations during competition. And they launched a test. They completed launch tests to see how far and accurate their catapult was when launching a beanbag. And then they also had to create and present a play around the launching of the beanbag. And this team won 1st place in their division at the regional competition. Our 2nd, 3rd through 5th grade team chose an improv challenge where they were required to create a 2-part skit complete with costumes created on the spot during competition. They researched costume design and created a costume design kit, and their improv skills also used intensifiers to minimize and maximize scenarios. And this team also won 1st place at the regional Durango competition and chose to compete in the state competition in Denver. And I believe placed 5th, said 4th place out of over 20 teams. So that was really impressive. And one of the students from this team is Miss Linnea Merritt, and she has also graciously offered to come and tell you about her experience with DI. So here she is.
Hello, dignified board members. My name is Linnea Merritt, and I would like to take a few minutes to tell you about my experience at DI, or Destination Imagination. Our school voted on doing the engineering and improv challenges, in which I chose improv. This challenge had us make a costume box, a then a random character and a random intensifier. And an intensifier is basically a pronoun. Were picked in a really random scenario. So that was just something that they made up and it was picked out of a hat, whatever. Also during the middle of our made up thing, they would roll a dice and to see if we would minimize the intensifier, like say it was happy. So if we were minimize it halfway through or maximize it halfway through. This challenge taught us teamwork, creative thinking, and problem solving. Another thing is that we got first place in regionals and fourth place in state. So we were very close to going into globals, which is very exciting. Another thing is that I still stay in contact with my teammates. Scarlett, Lily, Maggie, Nevaeh. Did I say Lily? Nevaeh, Scarlett, Lily, and Maggie. I hope we do DI again at Lewis and at other schools. Thank you for your time. Also, I have a few things. So like you saw earlier, this was up there, but this is the engineering team that I call her Coach Krista, but Miss Krista, Mr. Tom, Sophia and Tash, Parker, and husband. This is my team. Maggie, Lily, Scarlett, Nevaeh. We got this is my first place medal at regionals.
Woo!
We also got a lot of wins. This one was from state, and this one was from state. So this one was for.
She's not excited.
It's the thing that you do that's like they give you a challenge and then you have to figure it out and it's really short. Yeah, that. Then I can't figure it. And then say, so God say this Miss Socket got present. This came medal. And I really appreciate your time. I'm sorry it took a long time.
No, you were,
Thank
that was
you.
absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Linnea.
So just to wrap it up, DI is an incredible program. This was my first year that I've had the opportunity to experience it. I helped organize it for Lewis, but then also coached one of the early learning teams. And just seeing its benefits, I mean, the benefits are just incredible. Just students thinking outside the box, being creative, the teamwork skills. Yeah, it really dovetails nicely with a lot of our efforts that we do as a district in the classroom and offer this in the afternoons too. It's just really wonderful. So thank you.
No,
Thank you.
thank you. Yes, that was a great presentation.
I also just want to say too, I think that I can speak for Kemper as well as this and our parents, and Ashley Maris in the audience. She coached Linnea's team and was gracious enough to organize all the parents going up to Denver, which is where state was. I think we really learned the amount of time that is involved in this and will help us prepare for the district next year because it is a huge time commitment. And I just want to publicly thank all the staff and the parents that participated in this because it was a lot of time after school. Next, I'd just like to have Marty, I always want to say her name, Laurier, come up and talk about Mesa's Chess Club.
Hello, I'm Marty Laurier. I go by Martha, but I'm Marty, and I'm proud to be here as our sponsor of the Mesa Chess Club that we started. Actually, we started a year ago, and I had a lot of fourth graders. I did math intervention last year, and the fourth graders wanted to learn how to play chess. So we took those fourth graders last year, and many of them became fifth graders this year that wanted to play chess as well. So we learned that there was a new rubric in order to have clubs in the schools and be sponsors. But myself and Mr. Brian Emke, who's the PE teacher, had these children every Wednesday for about 7 weeks, I believe it was. We started a little bit later than we would have liked to. We started in February and went through April, and then everybody started getting busy with baseball and softball and soccer and everything like that. So what we did was we established norms and we had officers during the chess club time. We met on Wednesdays. Children learned how to behave when they were playing chess and to develop sportsmanship and concentration. They learned patience as they needed, as sometimes it took a long time for someone to decide what their move was. And we taught them several strategies, how to open a chess game and which side starts a chess game. We taught them what all the pieces were called, how they moved, how many points they were worth. And occasionally we showed videos of people online that work with a lot of kids and do chess. We learned we taught them how to castle with their rooks and their kings, how to develop other pieces so they could control the center of their chessboard, and how to do en passant with their pawns. We interacted socially and we shared many snacks together. We learned ways to checkmate the other side's kings and how to protect our own kings. And I believe they learned how to lose and win, and they did so gracefully, and they learned from their losses. And in conclusion, most of the students would like to have a chess club when they go to middle school. We tried to get other schools involved in the club, but we didn't find out about anybody else that was having clubs in the area. So we would have liked to have had a tournament among other groups. But I brought one student with me today. Her name is Amaya Root, and she was very involved in our club. We do have some pictures. I don't know how to work this thing. So maybe just talk to this cushion. Amaya's so Amaya's a really good player, but very quiet. So these are two of our students. These are fifth graders. The one on the left beat anybody, including Mr. Emke and myself. And the one on the right is also very good. Did you play either one? You played both of them properly during the year. Again, Landon Bradley is on the left and Noah Spruill is on the right. We met in the classroom that I'm in, and we got some of these chess pieces and sets from Mana and then brought them over before we had to leave Mana. Oops, I think I went too fast. So these are some of the members of our chess club, and our one person on the right was one of our officers, and one on the left was a secretary. Tyanique was our president, and Evelyn Ballinger was on the left. She was our secretary. And another picture of them. Some of our other boys and girls that played chess. Everybody came pretty often. We averaged about 17 students each time we met. We had 22 that were enrolled. And then again, a group that enjoyed. So we picked sticks to see who was going to play with who a few times. And then we just had general rounds of chess, and we talk about different strategies during the meeting. That might be it. So we thank you for your support and really appreciate it. And we're glad we could play chess. Kids learn a lot from this. It's apparently a thing after the pandemic, and there's a lot of psychological studies on the benefits of chess. And I think it's a really good game for kids to learn concentration and just kind of calm down. So thank you very much.
Thank you. High school.
Good evening. I'm gonna give you guys a quick Navajo lesson really quick because this is how I introduce myself. Yat H A Hen Yazi and Shget, Topahin Shlen, do not put an ed touchini bashichi, Kiani Shiche, Auto Twitchini additional, Twitch it, Danasha, put it's on Michelin. So that's just, I speak really fast Navajo, sorry. I grew up on the reservation, Navajo reservation, and learned to speak, write, read Navajo and all that stuff. So I'm here for the high school for the clubs that we have currently at the high school for our students. And I'll start off with Indigenous Club. A lot of you guys know me now because I'm in the athletics office for the secretary position. When I first started, I was actually hired for the Native American para position. So that got me involved with a lot of the Native American students that needed support there at the high school. Earlier in this beginning of the year, no one wanted to help take care of Indigenous clubs, so the kids had asked me. So we started to build that relationship and that rapport with the students and got our club going. So we had an average of at least 17 to 22 students involved with Native American Club. A lot of the students that were involved were also involved with sports. So it's kind of hard to do some meetings and all this stuff because they were always gone or busy with practice and so forth. In September, I ended up taking a lot of the students to the Navajo Nation Fair, which they have never been. So that was really good for them because they were also able to visit with tribal colleges and learn about scholarship opportunities for Native American students. And then they also were able to see presentations from a lot of the different members there of the Navajo Nation Fair. So they were able to partake in that as well. In October, they were able to go to Fort Lewis College. They were able to attend the Native American Studies program and actually see what it was like to be a part of the college and university there, you know, was in the setting, classroom setting, and being able to meet with the professor there. So they got that opportunity. November, we did have a Native American week there at the high school, which I don't think that's happened in a while for them there at the high school. So a lot of our students were able to partake and show off their traditional regalia there and learn about their culture. And, you know, they were able to partake of that. Recently, we were able to go to the Gathering of Nations powwow for them in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that was fun and exhausting because the powwow can go all the way up until like 1 o'clock in the morning. So that was exhausting and they were excited for that trip. And they wanted to do another trip, but it was just too late of a notice for that other trip to happen. But we did have presenters come into the meetings when we could have meetings for these students. So they were able to listen in and see what's going on around the community here in Cortez and in Toyac. So they were able to partake in that. So that's Indigenous Club right there. I do have some statements from the teachers that weren't able to be here because it is the awards night there at the high school tonight. So they're there doing their presentations and all that stuff for their awards tonight. Student government and Jennifer McHenry, she is the government teacher there at the high school. She led student government this year. This is her first time we had leaders in all grade levels from freshmen to seniors. There was a president, VP, secretary, and treasurer for each grade. They held lunch meetings regularly and helped with many fall events such as homecoming, the parade, dances, community services, and so on. This was a fall-only club this year. Young Artists Association, Darnell Bain, who is the art teacher there at the high school, is the leader of the art club. They are working on a mural for the Rotary Club on Fridays. They participated in the art show in Bayfield where multiple students won first, second, and honorable mention prizes. They held lunch meetings once a week on Tuesdays. The art club also hosted several events where they did tie-dye and other activities. French and Spanish Club, there's a presentation, a slideshow there. This is the first time I'm seeing this slideshow, so. Oh. The officers, Abby Tunick, Savannah Neely, Vice President. Heather Martinez, Secretary Addison Totachini, Treasurer Audrey Frazier. Those are the officers. Oh my gosh, can't really see this is small. Cultural appreciation, global awareness, celebrations, and events. I did see a lot of them actually advertising for their meetings and all the stuff and partake in it. So it was awesome to see some of these students actually speak Spanish and French there at the high school. Pictures of club participation. Dio de los Muertos, so they did advertise for that one too, and they did great. National French Week, they had a tournament, Eiffel Tower building, cheese tasting, and chocolate day, holiday parties, Mardi Gras, Valentine's Day, April Fool's Day. I'm not gonna try to attempt to say that in French.
Poisson d'Avril, I think.
Yeah.
Poisson.
Salsa and the ice cream social. Here's a couple of their pictures. If you guys have gone into Mr. Omar's classroom, it is highly decorated with a lot of their club items that they have had. They are also coloring hair. And this is Miss Sonia Copeland. She is also the co-sponsor for French Club and Mr. Omar. And then this is the French Week. And then this is their tournament. And I believe that was in front of the high school. This is what it looked like from the pictures. Their Eiffel Tower building. Their cheese tasting. And their chocolate day. I'm pretty sure all my students that day were hyper that day. Chocolate day. And then their holiday parties. And they did a Christmas exchange for their gifts. And then here's the Mardi Gras. And Valentine's Day. And then their April Fool's Day. They actually had a game where if the teachers had the fish on their backs and all this, they were to turn it into Miss Copeland. And there's the paper fish that were taped on everybody. And then the salsa competition. A lot of the students did make their own salsa to share and they had their competition. And then their end of year ice cream social. That's it for their presentation there. Next we'll move on to yearbook. Miss Skyla Hamilton, she is in charge of the yearbook. She is also the FFA and ag teacher there at the high school. Skyla Hamilton has worked diligently all year on the yearbook with very little help. She has gone to numerous events to take photos, recruited students to take photos, and organized our yearbook this year. The yearbook takes an abundance of time to format, edit, and organize outside school hours. And she has had her students come to events for, basketball, I believe, some of the baseball games and softball. I don't think she had anybody for softball because that's when we were trying to still recruit for her. But she's had some students that actually stepped up and wanted to help her take pictures and partake in student events there at the high school. Panther Chefs. The Panther Chefs had 18 catering events this year, which included events held at MCHS in the Commons or library, pickup meals and staff meetings, and an off-campus event at the warehouse last month. The Panther Chefs sold 386 no-bake cheesecakes for our Cheesecake Mania fundraiser, which raises money for their personalized aprons, chef coats, food to cook with, and learn new skills. And also for our annual field trip to James Ranch Grill and Honeyville Factory to tour local food service operations, and also to celebrate a wonderful year of working together to serve and nourish our school and community while learning the basic life skills that they will use for life. Cantu McPherson spends an average of 10 to 20 hours per month outside school or contract time for the time required for grocery shopping, planning events, and executing after-school and off-campus catering events. She is proud to lead the Panther Chefs, who have been a bright light for Montezuma-Cortez School District since 2015. The Panther Chefs have been highlighted in local news several times over the years. And they do an amazing job. A lot of these kids don't have the skills. When they come into the class, they don't have the skills and knowledge of how to actually cook basic foods for themselves or anything like that. And by the end of the year, they can pretty much prepare a whole dinner for their family, which is amazing. And that is it for our student clubs. Like I said, a lot of our teachers are at the awards night tonight. So I can try, if you guys have any questions, I can try to answer them as best as I can. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that update on all that.
And if anyone goes running out to make it to awards night, we're not going to notice. Okay, so we will be moving on to reports. The first one is celebration reports. Do we have any reports, celebration reports?
I actually do. Annika Naranjo received a scholarship from Empire Electric. And we also have 3 scholarship winners, Christine Patrick, Emmeline Beckler, and Aaron Morris. They received the Dean Hanson Memorial Scholarship. Congratulations to those kids.
Yep. I did attend the senior choir concert and that was phenomenal. They always do such a great job. So I did do that.
Spent all afternoon today pretty much at the high school and had a good time. So just see some students do some really outstanding presentations. So it's good. And the school year is about wrapped up.
Yeah, that's a celebration in
Hard to
itself.
believe. Hard to believe.
That might be the biggest one yet.
Mhm.
Graduation coming up Thursday, so. Okay, let's move on to, we don't have our student representatives here, so we will just pass by that and go to our superintendent's report.
Madam President, my report is in your packet. I do want to highlight 2 or 3 things. Brad Miller got us in touch with Nate Eckloff, and Nate is with Piper Sandler. We had a Zoom with him this morning. He's working on our bond and mill proposals to see if, see what mill levy we will have to ask for to get to the salaries that we need to get to. At the last, we had the last attendance meeting this morning, and I'm happy to report that we had almost a 2% rise in overall attendance in the district, and the largest improvement was at the high school. So congratulations to them.
Good. Mhm.
Also, I was accepted into AJ Crable's mini cohort, and that will require a few days of being on Zoom with them. I'm excited about that, nervous about it. And of course, you guys are going to be my guinea pigs in what I learn on that. The open house, June 4th for this facility. We've not had an open house for it. So June 4th, we will have an open house with treats. Deb is lining that all up. She's really good at it. Also in your packet, you have a calendar for June. And we need to do another retreat with the board. I've got some unfinished business to do with the board. And she's got the work session on there for Tuesday the 4th and the board meeting
Just who has it.
for June 18th.
Mr. Burris, I think you're the only one with the calendar.
I'm the only one with, oh, sorry. I thought they were in everybody's, but we need to see if we can choose sometime in June to have a retreat. The Thursdays, what works best? Rafe, what works best for you?
So June 31st.
Not Friday or Saturdays.
June 31st. June 4th would work fine with me. I have, well, that's a work session day. I have the mediation with BOCES that day, with the 3rd and 4th. The 18th board meeting is the 18th. I'm sorry, Rafe, what works best for you?
I was gonna say just the 7th and 8th I'm gone, 14th and 15th I'm gone, 20th, 21st and 22nd I'm gone. So most of the weekends in June I'm not
Right.
here. So as long as you do it
Would you,
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, well, Tuesday, Wednesday probably be the best.
okay,
Maybe the 11th and 12th. Again, I don't know if anybody else can do that, but
okay,
it'd either be the 11th and 12th or the
12th.
25th and 26th.
okay.
Yeah, see.
Not a go.
What dates were that?
The 19th?
Is it just one night?
Meeting on the 18th, right?
We have a meeting on the 18th.
Would it be just one night or 2 nights?
Just one,
Okay.
one. You will be gone, okay.
How about the 25th or 26th? I know that pushes it off even farther, but
That's okay. 25th to 26th, Mike,
I can do.
okay. On the agenda is the book study
Okay.
of statutes.
okay.
And I do want to do the covenants and kind of start from ground zero with those. I've talked to Mike today. The book study will take about an hour. And we'll have it done. That's about what I spend with the principals, isn't it? About an hour on the book study, the statutes. Okay. Yes. Okay,
So is that a Tuesday or a Wednesday? Did I hear you say the 25th?
June 25th is a Tuesday.
June 25th. Let's tentatively put it there and we'll see how our other 2 board members are with that day. Thank you, board. Appreciate getting that together that quick. If there's any questions with the rest of my report, please let me know.
All right, moving on to report D, Executive Director of Finance report. And she is not here this evening. Do we have anybody representing for her?
She's here.
Oh, that's right. She was Zoom. That's
Can
right.
you hear us, Danielle?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Well, good evening, board. Thanks for allowing me to join virtually tonight. I'm going to start by sharing our donations, the generosity of our community. Jeannie Sapp Memorial Account, they donated $1,100 to our FFA. The Kiwanis donated $1,600 to FFA. And then we had a $5,000 donation to our football team from Madera Glorieta Builders, LLC, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So we appreciate all of those. The third, because of the $5,000 amount, is going to be on the consent calendar for you to approve or deny, but those are what has come in this month. I think the biggest part of my conversation tonight is related to our budget. Just today, we've added some documents to your board docs. You'll find a budget summary, an expense detail, a revenue detail, and also a budget by campus. So this isn't the entire packet, but this gives you a good idea of what we're looking at. You'll notice it's on a very similar template to what we've used year after year. However, this year we did include the data from our audit, our 2021 and 22 audits. You'll have last year's data, and then you'll have a new column for our projection for this year. So I know we just revised the budget in February, but again, I went through every line item with a fine tooth comb and tried to come up with a forecast for where we'll be sitting on June 30th. And then you'll have the proposed budget column, as well as a column that shows the difference from the proposed budget to what was approved in February. The most notable thing about our budget is that when doing the forecast, I realized, we're not quite where we thought we were sitting. Right now, if everything follows through how we're anticipating, we're actually looking at a slight surplus in our general fund. And so we attribute that to, we've had some increased revenues. We've added some indirect costs. I don't think it's 100% approved that we're going to get those, but very likely that we'll have at least some of that. We've had some unanticipated impact aid come in. Those two alone are increasing our revenues by over $900,000. And then I also looked at the expenditures, and really there were a lot of items budgeted mostly in the campus salaries and benefits that I don't feel we're going to utilize this year. I think some of that is due to all of the amounts that ESSER and other grants were covering. Some of it is due to just being understaffed in those vacancies. But then I think there's also a lot of vacant or open positions within our system that were budgeted year after year, and we just needed to go in and clean those up a little bit. So this year, we're actually sitting much better than we've been talking about. If all goes through as we're hoping and as we're forecasting, we're looking at having an ending budget balance of around $18 million at the end of this year. So, to be honest, that was somewhat alarming to me at first because that's not what we've been operating on. But I've gone through every line item, all the transactions within those line items, and I'm pretty confident in those numbers. With that being said, our department has closed off the purchasing at this point. So we have asked that no more purchases occur from here through June 30th, just to allow us to reconcile and close up our books. Now, if there's emergency purchases that come through, certainly that could impact this forecast. But the salaries and benefits, which would be the largest amount of that, are already included here. Looking into next year, we do have a slight increase in revenues. However, it's not quite where we need to be at, with the loss of all of our grant funding. And even with the many hours spent trying to fine tune our staffing and our programs and cut wherever possible, we are looking at least a $1.6 million deficit next year unless we can further fine tune that. But I do think we have a good plan as far as just the attrition and really making sure we're spending money where it's most needed. But overall, I think we're headed in the right direction. And, it's a better outlook than we've been discussing here lately. I just wanted to mention some things on, the expenditures and revenues reports. So some things you'll notice, for the most part, the campus budgets have all decreased slightly from the February budget of this year, with the exception of Kemper and CMS. I do believe a good part of that increase is due to the new effective education program that we are implementing there, and just ESS in general. Again, I think it's, it's pretty minimal compared to what we've been looking at. The curriculum, you'll notice a big increase there. Part of that is due to the grant funding that has covered a lot of our curriculum. And it also is because most of the curriculum is going to a district level versus the campus level. And then you'll see down in the ESS budget, we actually have a significant decrease, and that's due to ending that contract with VocoVision and having our ESS teachers come in to work with the students. Also, the safety budget they felt they could see a decrease there just due to the progress that's been made this year. We also have some really nice grants that are coming in for safety over the next year. I think that's the most notable parts of the expenditures detail. Revenues, we talked about that some at the work session earlier this month. We are expecting some increase, but not as much as they're making it sound like, just because some of the increased funding is actually just coming from a different bucket. So we're increasing our total program funding, but losing some pretty significant grants. When you look at the campus budgets, another feature I added to those is the student count. So you'll see the year-by-year comparison, expenditures, revenue, and also student count. So Mark Knox has been really helpful in helping me to gather those student count numbers by campus. I do, just to follow up from our board work session, I do think I can get you some good numbers that exclude the preschool count, so we can have a more equal comparison year by year. I think that's all I have right off the bat. Do you have any questions for me?
Assume you're not going to be here when we do ours. You're not going to stay zoomed in with us. On the rural funding that I brought up about a month ago or so, based on our size and stuff, we were looking at $117. I don't know if you use that number or not, or if you probably know more on this than I do, Ian, I'm sure. But what I just found out today was that that's going to be over a 6-year period. So the first year we're only getting $18, and then it's going to add $16 per student each year after that until it gets up to that over 6 years.
That's correct. It's a phased approach for sure. And unfortunately, our rural schools funding, that was, over $400,000 that was cut to help aid this total program funding. So we're not going to see a huge benefit right away for sure.
Okay.
I have a question on the cash flow statement through April. If
Okay.
you go to the revenue section, the first line item there is local revenue. If you go all the way over to the right, the last two columns are year-to-date actual and year-to-date actual plus estimate. And there's quite a bit of difference between those, about $11 million. And not knowing any better, I expected the year-to-date numbers all the way up and down that column to be somewhat close to 10/12 of what the budgeted amount would have been, since we've been through 10 months of the year. So I was wondering if you could help me understand why there's such a difference between the year-to-date actual and the year-to-date actual plus estimate on local revenue.
Absolutely. So the local revenue and that state revenue make up our total program funding. The state revenue, we get pretty equal payments throughout the year, month to month, with the exception of they adjust in December based upon our October count. So, if we had overestimated or underestimated student count, that can impact our payments from January on. However, that local revenue, we get minimal amounts until after property taxes are collected. So actually, if we pulled that report today, it would look very different because we just received a pretty significant deposit. So that's just how it's set up. The state revenue is kind of there monthly to help us get throughout the year until those property taxes arrive in the spring.
Okay, so the local tax revenues don't even start coming in until maybe April, or after April, maybe May or June. Is that what you're saying? Right.
We get very minimal amounts compared to like a $13 million payment that comes in late May. So.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Not really a question, but I'm just as excited as you are and about the end of the year. The money that we have at the end of the year with what you said, what we've been talking about. So that was exciting.
Yeah, it's very good news.
Yes. Okay. Anything else for?
Ms. Bradford? Okay. Great, we will thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
No, you too,
Thank
you as
you.
well. Okay, Executive Director of Student Academic Services Board Report. Oops. Oh, here, let me put it- I already got that one.
Good evening, board. Thank you for being here this evening. I don't have a ton to review. You are receiving a couple of documents right now that I think are particularly poignant as we speak of student outcomes. What you have are receiving right at the moment is the percentile rankings of end of year STAR assessments. So just so you know, we benchmark or take STAR assessments on a scheduled basis 3 times a year, once at the beginning of the year, once in the middle of the year, and then again at the end of the year. And what you see before you are the results of the STAR assessments that just completed and the STAR assessments that we took in the fall, roughly late August, early September. So let me walk through the document real quickly with you. The front side, the first area is STAR Math, and that is in the fall. There are 4 categories or 4 columns, if you will, below the 10th percentile ranking. Each of these data points are about percentile ranking. The second column, which is highlighted in the yellowish color, is the 10 to 24th percentile ranking column. The third column is the 25th to 49th percentile ranking. And then the one at the far right is the above 50th percentile ranking. And if you look towards the bottom of the sheet, I've put in a little key, basically kind of identifying those columns and what they might mean should students be performing in those particular areas. Below 10th percentile is urgent intervention. 10 to 24th percentile is intervention. 25th to 49th is on watch. And then at or above, the 50th percentile is at or above benchmark. And the 50th percentile ranking for our purposes in the district is identified as grade level. Technically, Renaissance or STAR, the testing platform, they determine within their own metrics that the 40th percentile is grade level. But we are working to try and push those boundaries to be above and beyond. And that may be something that we want to look at in the future for adjusting again as well. Anyhow, so I'm not going to go through each school, but what I would like to do is highlight the overall summaries for both math and reading. You'll see at the bottom for math in the fall, overall, we had 21% of our students at below the 10th percentile. We had 20% of our students at between 10 and 24th percentile. We had 24% of our students between the 25th and 49th percentile, and then we had 35% at the above 50 or above percentile. And as we move to the spring, the same categories at below the 10th percentile, we have 21% again as well, with a decrease of 12 students in that area. For 10th to 24th percentile, we had 15%, which was a decrease of 5% from the fall. And again, when we have decreases in those lower categories, that's a good thing because they're moving into the upper categories. So that's what we're looking for. So again, the 10th to 24th percentile in math, in the fall, there was 326 students. In the spring, there was 254 students. So that was a decrease of 72 students. For the 25th to 49th percentile, in the spring, we had around 20% of our students, 320, which is 325 students. And that is a decrease of 56 students or -4%. And then lastly, our column for at or above, we went from 557 students that at or above the 50th percentile to 750 students, which is an increase of 193 students or 10%. So we saw good increases in math. If you'll turn over to the reading side, in similar fashion, our below 10th percentile in the fall was 34% or 500 students. Our 10th to 24th percentile ranking was 21% or 308 students. 29 to 49th percentile ranking was 22% or 318 students. And above 50%, 348 students or 24th percent. So same categories, but in the spring, we had 416 students below the 10th percentile ranking or 29%. It was a decrease of students in that category of 84 or -5%. For 10 to 24th percentile, we had 245 students or 15%. That was a decrease of 63 students or 6%. For the 25th through 49th percentile ranking, we had 313 students in the spring, which was a decrease of 5 students, and it remained at 22%. And the at or above 50th percentile ranking increased from 348 students to 477 students, plus 129 students, or a positive movement of 9%. So those are obviously we are moving some kids where we want them to be, but we still have plenty of work to go here. We would love to see all of our kids that are above the 50th percentile, and that's the goals that we will continue to work for. Plans that I have shared with you in rough draft form address those areas where we'll be looking hard at reading and really increasing our attention to the science of reading for our primary students, so that once they get to 3rd grade, we see more kids at or above the 50th percentile. I do want to note that the reading test for STAR is only 2nd grade and above. K and 1st grade and some 2nd grade actually take the early literacy test, which I did not pull the data for this. And for our math, it is 1st grade and above. So not all of our students have taken the STAR testing, but a good majority of them have. The other thing that I shared with you is this particular document from Renaissance. So it does come from Renaissance or STAR. So anytime a company publishes their own stuff, you need a slight grain of salt when you're reading it. But what this does is this is a correlation study between STAR assessments and Colorado CMAS testing. So it gives us an idea of how closely they align. And, according to their metrics and some of the things that they say, and I'll feel free to read through this at your leisure, and we can certainly talk about it as we go forward. But they find a fairly close correlation to student performance on CMAS and STAR assessments. But I think it's definitely worth looking at so that we can flesh out that data a little better. And there are other reports within STAR that we can pull that are more specific down to student specific information. But this is a general overview of our performance data for the year that I wanted to share with you, particularly in light of the fact that we won't get CMAS probably for another month or so. So if you have any questions, please.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes, thank you for that, Jim. We are moving on to the Executive Director of Human Resources report, Ms. Eldridge. Good evening, board. Okay. I have submitted my board report to the executive content of the calendar. The monthly employment updates is included along with the renewal list of all employees.
We have completed the letters of intent and received approximately 75% of those signed notices back. Contracts and notice of assignments will be generated tomorrow after the salary schedule has been approved in the consent. Also, notice of reassignments will be attached along with specific calendars on the contracts. We will be doing contracts by DocuSign this year. It'll be a first year of doing it that way. Previous years, we've had every employee come into the HR office and sign their contracts. So this will be a very streamlined way of taking care of that. Also attached to my report is the current openings list for the district. Like to go through the employee updates. You can see for new hires, we have 8 new hires, 6 being teachers. We have 54 employees who have applied for summer school positions.
Oh, wow.
There are 10 coaching assignments to be approved, 2 new substitutes, 1 internal promotion, Miss Martha Lordier. I guess she's left. I wanted to applaud her. We have 7 new positions, 4 transfers, 5 individuals who are retiring with the district, but 3 of which are coming back and teaching under the critical shortage. I have 15 resignations and 1 termination listed. I've also attached 6 exit surveys to my report and then the link to the TLCC survey. All of this is available for your review. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you for that, Cynthia. Okay, Executive Director of ESS report, Lisa Mingle.
Good evening, board. I did submit my report. I don't have anything really to add. If you have any questions, let me know.
Okay. All right, we will move on to board reports. What do you got, Ed? Yeah.
Everything I had for this month was off of the real roundtable that we do, the Zoom meeting with Casby on. So one thing that we probably need to visit with Brad on was the presentation that they did on the Meta lawsuit. A firm out of Salt Lake, I guess, is doing this nationwide. Involves suing FaceTime, YouTube, TikTok, etc., social media. There's about 1,000 school districts around the U.S. that have joined in on this, I guess, and they gave a presentation basically asking anybody that Denver's in on it, Fort Collins, a lot of Colorado schools. Doesn't cost anything to get in on it. They said it takes about 5 to 8 hours of somebody's time to fill out the paperwork. And once you are in with that, then basically you can, based on your population and stuff, you can get a portion of the claims that they get out of that. And all they're looking for is more numbers to put on there to give them more justification as far as the lawsuit against them and stuff. So, and they're expecting that to be done sometime in late 25, I think, is what he told me. So, and I got his contact information and stuff. If we're interested in doing that, I don't know. It's something up for.
Brad?
Hi, so I'm Brad Miller. I'm a lawyer for the district. Thanks for bringing that up. I've had a couple of interactions with others that are looking into this, and we haven't had occasion to really dig deeply, but probably have Joshua or Bryce take a look and get back to you with a recommendation as to whether it makes some sense.
Okay.
For sure.
And what I guess, I don't know much about this stuff, but they're basically, the lawsuit's based on is basically their algorithms that these companies are using to target students, and they're taking away from educational time is what they're basically pushing out.
Exactly.
One of the things that one of the stats they threw out is that, and I know Colorado tried to, I don't think that legislation passed. I don't remember. I'll find out tomorrow on the legislative wrap up, but as far as like limiting time on social media, things like that. Example that their guy threw out was that in China, they get 45 minutes a day. That's it. That's what a student gets. And what his example was is it would be no different than a person going into a bar and a bartender not telling them that they don't get any more. And I'm going to call you a cab and you don't get to go across the street to the next bar or anything else. But we don't do that with social media, he said. And that was one of the analogies he used of it. So what they're going after is just that they're targeting students and they're using that and they're using educational time against it. So
there are a number of districts and schools that are adopting sort of a digital media sort of protocol within the schools, and some are more robust and overarching and taking cell phones away from students during class time, et cetera. And some are more subdued. But I bet you Jim and Eddie are already looking into that sort of thing, be my guess.
Yeah. So basically, I think what the application involves is the time spent to show, is it costing us more money in a district? Do we have to hire extra counselors, hire extra administrators, say in the high school to monitor things, whatever. And that's what they're looking for. It's just more stats to throw in with their lawsuit is what they're looking. And again, it doesn't cost anything from the district. And then based on your population and stuff on the whole realm of it, I mean, naturally, if Denver's in there and stuff, they're going to be.
Don't mind, I'll go to my phone and I'll tap out some notes and get a follow up on it. Thanks.
So, and I've got his contact and stuff. It was a Joel Wright Law Service Group, it's called. Anyway, legislative wrap up update is tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. Anybody that wants to watch in with that with Casby. This is the final wrap up that Matt will be doing to tell everything about the results of everything with legislatively. If you don't want to or can't sit in on it tomorrow night, what he encouraged was to go ahead and register for it. And then that way, if they have your email and stuff, they will send you a recorded copy of it for afterwards. So it's been a pretty busy year legislatively. School finance, we talked about that Senate Bill 188 was the BS factor, and that has been retired. I mentioned with Danielle about the rural districts. Everything to this point, all of my understanding was we were going to start getting $177, but just as of today, I found out, no, we don't. It's $18 and then $16 a year added to that each year till it gets up to that. But the good news of that is that it is now legislative and it's not going to be a year-to-year thing for rural districts. This is legislated. So now we're going to start getting that money and there's no, waiting year to year to see whether or not we're going to get anything or not. So that is the good part of it. To fully fund that right now, they said it would take about $2 billion. And so that's why now they're trying to, over the next 6 years, there's going to be a lot of tweaking of that, of trying to figure out formulas that they can put into it and stuff like that as to how every district's going to be. What else? The property tax bill. One thing that they warned us on, that school districts on property tax notices starting next year, school districts will have a different mill than other districts on their property tax notice for the residents. So they said be prepared for people to be complaining, why is the school district at 7.15% and the fire department's at 6.7%, stuff like that. So they said, and I don't understand what all that is yet until we'll see what all that comes out. But they said do be ready to explain that because it's not anything we're doing. But the CASB is coming up with policy updates on that name change bill. And I think we need to look at the resolution that was sent to us, I think, on that. Free meal program that was put in last year, well, actually 2 years ago, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Last year, they lost $60 million on that program. So now they don't know what to do with it. So Joint Budget Committee covered that for this year, but they said that's it. We won't do it anymore. So now between now and next year, they've got to come up with some resolution to that. So one of the things that one possibility would be, they said, was to eliminate high schools totally out of the program. So that could be something that can happen. I don't know, to make it sustainable. And one of the things that they emphasized, which I never thought about too much with legislation this year, but they said a big share of legislation this year was all based on declining enrollment because every district all over the state has declining enrollment. And they said that was the major driving factor for almost everything that went legislatively, was trying to figure out now how are we doing this with declining enrollment all over. So that's it. That's all I had.
Pretty good update. Anybody else have any?
Yeah.
Yep.
In a previous board meeting, I mentioned a startup organization called CLAS, CLAS. It's Colorado, if I get this right, Colorado Leaders for Academic Success. And I'm involved with that organization, and I mentioned it. Two of the board members asked me to forward information to them. I'd be happy to do that as well for any other board member that is interested. I personally have benefited from some of the training that they've offered so far. The idea of CLAS, if you don't remember, is if I get it right, they're striving to be an alternative to CASB that is focused more on rural districts and meeting the needs of rural districts that sometimes CASB may not do very well. So
CASB's made a lot of difference this last year. They realize that, and they have really emphasized this last year. Be a lot closer tied with the Rural Alliance and stuff too. So.
Anything else, anybody? Nope, we're good. Okay. Right, we will move on to report I, the District Accountability Committee Quarterly Report. Monica Plill.
Good evening. I want to thank the board again for our report being on your agenda. I think it's an integral part of our goal for better communication between the District Accountability Committee and the board. So we are very thankful. We have a couple thank yous to start with on our report. Thank you to Mr. Lynch for attending some of our committee meetings. It made us feel very supported. Also need to thank Mr. Parr and Ms. Eldridge for their professionalism. Mr. Parr is attentive to our committee's requests and is always willing to communicate and follow through. He was very instrumental in helping us get the parent engagement follow-up survey out this spring. And he didn't even complain about the extra work when the committee decided that we needed QR codes for the parents, and then a translation into Spanish that he personally delivered to the campuses. So that was awesome. Also, Ms. Eldridge and her staff met with us multiple times, multiple times, to find the best answers for aligning the district's policy of inviting volunteers with streamlining the process. And we have a win. That'll be in our win section. So just wanted to thank them. I do have a little bit to report tonight. So as always, please ask questions if you have them. But since we value your time that you're giving as well, I'm flexible and I make myself available. Deb has my contact info, phone and email if anybody has questions. I'm hoping a lot of this is just review since we're at the end of the year, and hopefully you've heard about most of this stuff. So our first celebration was the RE-1 district barriers to volunteers being brought down. We worked with the HR office to change the policy because the limited hours and no offices in Cortez really caused a problem, especially for working parents to be able to sign up to volunteer in our schools. It was very problematic. So as I already alluded to, Ms. Eldridge and her staff were so diligent in trying to work with our committee in finding an in-house option. And it's going to work. We're so excited, and that will be set up hopefully by August for registration. And we're really hoping that one of our ideas for putting in an upload for people's Colorado driver's licenses on the online registration will then save the district money, because people that have lived here for a long enough time can go through a different vetting process that won't cost the same amount. So we're really excited about that. We thought that that was a great win. Parent engagement survey, as I alluded to as well, Mr. Power was phenomenal in getting those QR codes on there. Unfortunately, and you guys all have that, right?
It was in Mr. Parr's report.
Okay, awesome. So you saw that the responses were down by almost half on the survey. Our meeting got canceled. Admin was not able to be there, so we have to wait until next month to meet. But we're going to be looking at possible reasons for why that happened. The biggest one that just from the committee co-chairs and a couple other people that I was able to ask, they think that because all the people that responded last time were not contacted, that maybe they didn't feel like it was worth it. So we're hoping to look at that and find out some reasons, and maybe just ask people what the reasons were. So I wanted to share just one quote from maybe that I just thought was absolutely awesome. It was just one of the things from last year that came up as a needs improvement area that had flipped into what the district was doing well area. It says the high school transition program has stepped up to help my child set goals and has given us a direction they'd like to take. And I thought that's a really positive thing, especially since that was one of the results. We do have, again, we have not had our meeting yet before these will be published or sent out to the people that participated in the rest of the district. But I thought there were a couple things that we just needed to make sure you as a board were aware of and had seen. You haven't gotten this yet, but we catalog every response to the survey, and we have the comparison from last year to this year. So one of the huge needed improvement section was that the communication between the district and the parents skyrocketed, and 55% now think that the communication is probably the largest issue. The other three that were large were 25%, 15%, and 15%. So that's obviously huge. And then the other two, 25% 21% and 15% were that it said meet/follow up with and listen to people that are involved, parents, and then get input before changes are made. Those were the other two largest categories. And then the largest on the doing well was staff and specific schools that were named and what they were doing well. So you have all of those results and comments. So we're hoping that that'll be really helpful, so we can go to those schools and ask and implement some of those things in others. Any questions about, okay. All right. So the third celebration was that our SAC School Accountability Committee at each school are up and running this year. Yay. So if you just do some really simple, generic math, last year, 0 to 4 people were attending on just kind of an average or a lump sum. And so if it's monthly, some are quarterly, but if it's monthly with all of our schools, and they do have, the charter schools are also up and running, and you'll see some of those Battle Rock comments on your thing too, in the positives. That was great. But even if we get 1 to 12 at each school monthly, instead of being capped at about 40 parents that might be involved in the district, you're looking at 120 parents. And we are hoping that as we improve and as we start taking information up to you and taking it back down and bringing up their concerns, and that relationship builds trust, that we can have 200 or so parents involved. And how wonderful would that be monthly? That would be like getting our survey plus every month. That's feedback from our parents. So that's our hope. Caveat that those numbers did not include the 47 parents that showed up a couple weeks ago to our school accountability meeting at the high school. We did not count that number in there. That was a big thing, and we'll address that in a little bit, but I just wanted you to know those numbers, that number was not in there. Wouldn't it be great though, if we had 47 every single month? That would be great. And then our fourth thing was just that we want you as a board to know that we are a solution-based committee. We all feel very strongly that just complaining about things doesn't do any good. And so when SAC or parents bring concerns to us, we ask them, well, what's the solution? We don't just take the complaint. We really want to focus on solution-based problem solving. So I'm just really quick going to run through this list of things that we have put to you guys as solutions. So the paved one-way fire lane in the back of the high school, up to code designs on the same footprint for the secondary campuses for the bathroom problems, fingerprinting solutions simplified to upload for the online registration, safety and access for all doors, especially in classrooms, not just new time card keys or something that make teachers uncomfortable, or they might not think that's the solution. Citizens address the board responses at the following board meeting. And by that, we're not saying you should have an answer for someone that addressed the board, but just you've been put to the right person, or we are following up on this, or we heard you, just some kind of acknowledgement. Keeping more qualified teachers by thinking outside the box, especially with some of the things that Danielle was talking about and ESSER fund questions and things. We are trying to come up with part-time solutions or flexible position solutions to try to keep some of these qualified teachers, because we really need them here for these kids. Faster communications with the survey results, approaching LORE for the funding for celebrations and decor at the high school, feedback and ideas for financial policies and procedures that would help students in activities and athletics, i.e. the credit cards for each one so that the check system could be dropped, therefore having less problems for the programs. So those are just all things that we have, hopefully you guys have gotten those from admin from us. There are only 4 things that I just want to leave at the end of this, of things that we are still needing or looking for as a committee. 2 of them, I hope, will be at our meeting that had to be rescheduled. We've not seen the budget yet this year, and that we're supposed to be in compliance with whatever state DAC regs there are, to be able to ask questions about that. And of course, rumors are flying, so we don't want to go by those. We want facts. We have not been given the numbers that we requested a couple of months ago for retention. That was a follow-up on last year's survey. So we're hoping that those we get soon. What are the other? That included the hiring, firing policy procedure issues that were brought up with the 47 people at the SAC meeting. But the reason I bring that up is we still don't have a parent liaison in the district. And we've been asking and asking, and we're hoping to get that, because we feel like what we're hearing is people don't have an avenue to you. They don't have a way to know that their board is hearing the issues that they're having. And so the parent liaison could track that, could know who had been responded to. it would be more of a district level coordinated family engagement focus, which aligns with your parent engagement improvement policy. And then the fourth thing is the lack of transparency or accountability for the parents and community members that are following proper procedure with grievances. And that was one of the big reasons that we had such a massive school accountability committee meeting at the high school. And so I'm hoping that through, especially if you're going on this retreat or you're all together, that you can be looking at what parents are supposed to do when the process of going up the correct chain of command doesn't work. And we have multiple examples. I have 3 of them myself this year as a parent, where my meetings have been canceled and there's nothing I can do about it. So please know that I'm one of, many people that want you guys to hear their concerns. And DAC is trying. We're trying to funnel them up and funnel them back down. But by the time, let's say we were just doing budget questions, we haven't even seen it yet. So by the time that goes down to the SACs, then we're already into next year. And we're already looking for the next year's budget in February and March. So that is my report. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
Yes, Monica.
Yeah.
Put you on the spot here.
Absolutely.
You said about communication from the district to parents. What, can you give me an example of what else can we do?
Right.
You can post stuff on websites. We can do.
I check my emails daily, and
What else can we do?
Okay.
Tell us.
So
You said you were full of solutions, so.
well, not just me, hopefully it's other people. But if you look at when you get the cataloged one, but if you look at your responses from was 65 of the people that had the positive ones of what's been done well, and then the 81 of the needed improvements, you will find those categories in there. We broke out what we did originally the year before. So communication between the district and the parents and community members is different than the emails, texts, and app that is sending out safety information, event information. That's broken out separately. Okay, and that's actually one of the categories that grew in the what you're doing well. But that's not the communication that people put the remarks in about what the problems are. Those are, you want an example?
Sure.
I can give you an example, and I know we're not big on naming names or specifics, so I will be very generic. I'm trying to think of which one's the best. How about there was a team that was leaving for an event. And that event, the only reason I knew about this is because I called coaching staff and said, how many cinnamon rolls do I need to send with you at 5 a.m. tomorrow? That was my question to the coaching staff. And my response I got back from the coaching staff was, hold that thought, our event might be canceled. I said, okay. So I held that thought. And then they called me later that day and said, we were able to meet with the powers that be. And there was a communication problem where an email was sent from a higher up district place down to the other place and told that they didn't have enough funds in their thing, that they could not go to their event. And so these coaches had to take time out of their job to go down to the school to review and find out that there was I won't give specifics. There were funds that had not been replaced from the previous week's trip. And there were other funds earmarked that had not been put in their account from donations. And there were 3 charges to their account to the tune of upwards of hundreds of dollars to a different sport. So when they finally got all that and they realized how much money they did have in there, then we were okay to travel. And that was done the day before the event. So I got notice at 4:00 PM that I needed to do 4 dozen cinnamon rolls by the time I left at 5 AM. And I did. And sadly, that's because I'm kind of used to this. But it's not okay. But it's just communication. It's just simple communication and so unnecessary. And I have many more examples, and those are just personal. I'm sure there are many, many, many more. So it's a big thing. It's a really big deal. Yes, Sherry, I know.
Well, I'm just thinking because, well, that might be an issue, but were you talking more specifically with the board? Because generally that's kind of out of our jurisdiction. We may not even know some of that stuff.
Right. Yeah,
So
I
that's something that needs to be taken up at that level.
Right.
And then moved up the chain of command type of a situation.
Which it is.
But so that's why I was just kind of questioning, like, that's not something that we as a board.
Well, okay, so
But we're aware of it now. We're aware of it. One of them, or just
Yeah, one of them.
situations,
Right.
just certain situations. But
I have 3 just off the top of my head. I won't go there. But my point is, as a parent who is seeing these issues, and we go through the proper chat, the 47 people that came to the SAC meeting that couldn't express what they wanted to express because they weren't on our agenda and they couldn't name names, right? They were told, go through the proper process. And so they start the proper process, as I did with all of mine. One of my meetings got canceled in November. The other one got canceled a week ago. I'm 3+ weeks out on a safety issue that I've been trying to talk with people about. We need to know how we get that information to you because it's not working. So that was just the last thing. I don't want to wreck all the great things that came from DAC, but I am more than willing to answer questions. I don't want to take up any more of your time here, but if you need more specifics or have questions, like I said, Deb has my info. Please contact me. And I'm sure I didn't read the quote. Shoot.
Oh.
And that's okay.
You can.
So just a side note to that, I was telling Rafe, I just got back from Wyoming, went up to watch my granddaughter up there. And lo and behold, I get to go to the FFA banquet of all things to watch her get vice president of their local FFA chapter. And you know what the FFA advisor brought up during their banquet, saying, this has been so complicated this year to get sponsors to go with us, because as all you know, they have to go through fingerprinting. It's been such a pain this year doing all this stuff, and I can't get sponsors. And that's what I was telling Rafe. I said, the nice thing when we go to these places, everybody's in the same boat. We're all trying to do all these things, and
but
everybody's there.
Got it done.
Yeah, we did. That's what I'm saying.
And it's gonna be just
You hear the
amazing.
same things from everybody: teacher salary, teacher retention, every place you go, it's the same things.
So I know Nikki wanted to be here tonight about the keeping the qualified teachers, but celebration for her, Amita, she's watching Amita golf and she took 13th at state. So that's something huge to celebrate. And Chesney took 16th at state. So I mean, the whole team, they did phenomenal. I did want to read this quote though. Because the other people on the committee and parents put it way more eloquently than I can. As one parent put it, quote, there is a perception that process is applied, or a process as applied is contributing to staff turnover, worse morale, and growing distrust between district administrators and teachers. Okay, and those aren't my words. So let's look at the survey and let's try to set some goals that we can get out of that and bring those numbers way down so the communication is better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.
No, thank you. Thank you, Monica, for all of that. Okay. I'll pass this down. Okay, well, moving on to citizens address the board, 1 hour limit, 3 minutes each. Must turn in a filled out ticket prior to meeting. Just have the one. MB McAfee.
23-year-old body can bend over to pick up a piece of paper. Okay, I've got a question that maybe. I know you're not supposed to answer anything, but I'm curious if Lisa Meglay's report is something that's written out and put on the website, or is it an executive only report?
It's on board docs.
Okay, I guess I
But
didn't
it's
see
not a-
the, I
it's
didn't
not an
see, I know how to find the attachments. I didn't see an
It's not an
attachment.
She puts hers side.
Yeah,
Oh, hers in the body.
Okay,
Yeah,
right, I
yeah,
looked in the wrong
absolutely.
place.
Yes.
Thank you for talking to me. Thank you. I just wanted to also say that Annika, the student rep, I'm on a couple of scholarship committees through the Onward Foundation. And so she's getting awarded tonight at least 3 scholarships that I know of that are handled through Onward, in addition to the ones that you suggested or that you told about,
Right.
Mr. Burris. Then I wanted to talk just for a second about the attendance committee. Because when we started meeting year before, one of the questions we asked ourselves, what are the circumstances that cause kids to miss so much school? And so we really kind of started at the bottom, trying to identify what the issues are around attendance. And over the course of time, some pretty kind of good things happened in addition to the 2% attendance increase between last year and this year. Some of the things that happened is our attendance committee is a pretty big group. It includes people from social services. 2 people usually come from Pinion Project. There's a much better connection now between the Check and Connect program and all of the schools. And I don't think that would have happened without an emphasis on attendance with a group of people coming together and Pinion Project saying to Mr. Burris, who was the administrator in the room, we can't get into the schools. You got to help us get into the schools. So I think that's been really good. And I think now there's a fairly smooth come and go with Check and Connect, which is a very big wraparound program for the kids in the deepest trouble in our schools. And their statistics also are looking as good as the school districts. And the other thing is Erin Schmidt, who is assistant principal, is that what she is? In charge of attendance. I don't know what all of her title is, but she has just done some really creative and really good things. And she brings to the attendance committee a really cheerful, can-do attitude. So to me, it's been a real pleasure just watching this committee grow and develop and seeing what the results are. And so our next task this next year is to look at the kids. Well, I can't explain it to you. Never mind, I won't even try to explain it to you. But one of the things has to do with something that Monica was talking about, which does have to do with parent communication with the school and with the personnel that be and the proper sort of channels and that kind of thing. Whereas most of what I heard Monica talking about sort of lands in Mr. Burris's lap or Mr. Ramirez or somebody at this table, not particularly the school board. So I understood your question, Sherry, about staying in your lane or your guardrails or whatever. And so I think all of that's really important. And I'm going to stop babbling, except just to say our attendance can be started with only a few people. I think there were 4 of us to start with. And we gradually widened it out to include enough people to try to answer the questions that we thought were the most important to get kids in school and to keep them in school. And it's just a long thing. It doesn't happen overnight. Thanks.
Thank you, MB. All right, discussion items on board discussions.
Can I just give you a little heads up on some communication stuff I recently found out? So Mr. Lynch had posed the question about how come I see this school's set of announcements, but not the other schools? So I kind of surveyed all the principals and got feedback, and there was a very different process at each school. And over the next week, I'm going to put together those responses and just see if I can make sure all the board is getting all the communication that the parents are getting. Because sometimes it's tied to Power School, sometimes it's tied to a Google group, but I was only seeing high school information. And I wasn't
all I
looking at
get.
other schools, but I was being told by the principals that there are things going out to parents on a pretty regular basis. So I'm gonna look at that and then get that out to you. And then another, just from some of the feedback I've gotten over the last few weeks, I've seen that there is an issue with the board's emails not being available on the website. And I know tech does that for the whole staff as a protection, but I think it would be okay for the board to just have maybe something different. I mean, there's always a place they can click and email you, but it doesn't show the user your actual email. And so like Rafe's email is a very different format than President Noy's. And the public doesn't always know that when they want to communicate with you. So if you didn't mind, I would just throw something up on your board page that has just your emails, not the teachers or the paras, but I think it would
That'd
help
be
with
fine.
communication.
Oh, yeah.
That would be fine.
Absolutely. I
And-
guess I wasn't aware that it wasn't.
I wasn't until recently either.
And another thing too to think about here in the next 6 months, because of Alma rolling out, there will be a lot more capability for parents to be able to actually have communication with their kid through the Alma system whenever they don't have the ability to be there physically all the time. So Alma will open up the access to emailing your teachers, paying attention to your grades, paying attention to your child's attendance. Like it opens up the world of possibilities, because that's what Alma is there for, is to give you this interconnected between your teacher and parent without them having to physically be in the school or at the school or worried about something. Like they could, it's on an app, which again will streamline communication to attendance to everything. And I just, again, in 6 months when that happens, because I'm holding my breath for that one too, because I'm not a big Power School fan. I'll be honest. I've said it a few times. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, that would be fine with me.
All right, thank you.
So I can get emails and then they come in as website inquiry.
Mhm.
So
I get that.
Did I get those?
Yeah, and I get those too.
Okay.
Mike, did you have
somewhere.
something?
Yeah, so along that line of thinking, the follow-up question to that would be for any particular school in our district, how can the board communicate a message to that school community? Say we want to have, let's say we set up a barbecue that we want to have with this school to get some input from their community, the parents, the staff, and whatever. What way do we have to send that message to that community and set that up or invite them to that barbecue?
I believe in I think we should utilize Tom for that, just because he's, or any superintendent, like that should be, we communicate that to him, and then because I don't feel like we as 7 individuals should come up to do that. I kind of, that's just my thought on that one. Like we should come together as 7 to direct Tom, and then Tom goes about doing that. That's just yeah.
Or I'm sure Deb has just real quick.
I
have a few buttons.
Mark and I both have permissions to use the all email, which goes to everyone with the same ending. But like Rafe said, I always tell the staff that they should go through Tom on stuff like that. And then of course he would go to the principal, and then the principal probably has an all staff to approach them. So we don't always have to talk to the whole district.
And again, I also hope that Alma streamlines some of that as well. Can we talk about something else different?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question, Tom?
Sure.
Since we have 3 new people here, and since Miss Plu mentioned the grievance process, and since we have Brad, is there small abridged outline that you can give me, Rhonda and Mike, on exactly how grievances work and where they go and not all that? And again, maybe if I can utilize you, Brad, just to give us like a basic outline on, again, since she brought it up and since you got 3 new people and we've been seeing more of these, is there a general thing that you can tell us?
Sure. So again, Brad Miller speaking. First, I will just say it's endemic, or whatever the word is for it, happening in lots of places and in lots of ways. We've sort of post-COVID, or with the advent of more social media issues or whatever, that there's a lot more activities. Just anecdotally, yesterday, I found out that the EEOC in Colorado is 10x times as busy as it was 3 years ago.
EEOC. I'm sorry. What is
Yeah,
that?
the Equal
Employment.
Employment
you.
Opportunity
Okay.
Commission,
Okay.
you know, the sort of challenges about workplace issues.
Yes, sir.
And so forth, in administrative law have just blossomed tremendously. And who knows what that reflects? And I'll count on MB to figure out some data and get that figured out for us. But it absolutely has been a shift in our law practice and on my peers, finding that there's far more grievances going on. In Cortez, there are 2 avenues published on your website. One is the more conspicuous one, and people tend to engage in it, and it's unfortunately the improper one, and it's the AC-E policy that's kind of more conspicuously on your website, and that is for discrimination types of complaints. And so oftentimes people have utilized that to pursue other sorts of concerns, and so to some degree that's been unfortunate. And every once in a while, I don't know how often they come up, but I've been engaged in those and pushed back on in terms of, you know, the use of the appropriate policy, which, as I sit here for the life of me, it's either in the J or the G. I think I don't remember what the policy is, but you actually have a stakeholder grievance policy, and then in your G policies, which are, I believe, are the HR, then you'd have an employee grievance policy. They start traditionally with go to the person who you've got the issue with, have the meeting, try to formalize and raise your complaints. Then from there, it depending on the level, it would go to the principal or it would go to someone in administration. And then ultimately there's recourse for the board to consider taking up those grievances. And so in some instances, you'll find as the years go by that you'll get presentations of requests to review grievances. I'm not aware of any in that posture right at this moment with you, but what I will say is I think that the district needs to be diligent to make sure that they follow the policy and utilize the components that have elements such as a written response within a certain number of days. Make sure that we've gone through formal responses and so that people know what their next step is, and to clearly designate that. And then secondly, I think our policies that are the general stakeholder grievance policies probably need to be tightened up a bit and have some more clarity about the steps in the process. So that might be something for the board to consider in the next 6 or 8 months, is just to review those policies.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion, board? Okay. All right, we will move on to the mill levy and bond effort.
Madam President, I pretty much covered that with my board report about Nate Eckloff. I will be getting back with him later this week and then again next Tuesday.
Okay. Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments on that?
I was just curious if there was an update on the archaeological thing. Okay, the smile doesn't sound, yeah.
The lady that owns that land has stopped talking to, Cody was talking with her.
Uh-huh.
And she stopped talking to him.
Gotcha.
So we haven't spent the money on the
Archaeological thing. Okay,
archaeological thing. That land may be out.
perfect. Do we back up to? Or
Back up
is
to, we also looked at a piece that is directly south of the high school across 7th Street. So we're
Oh,
gonna do a
yes.
little investigation
Okay,
and see where we are.
where that rock quarry is.
Mhm.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
President Noyce, may I?
Yes, sir.
interject?
Yes, go ahead.
So Mr. Ramirez was good enough to point me to the actual place for so for community members, non-staff members who have a complaint, it's in the K section. KE is the policy for stakeholder grievance. And then there's a -R and a -E, I think. And so the -R would be the sort of the protocol or the regulation, the process. The KE would be the sort of the overall policy, and then there's a form. And that would be, I'd want people to be directed there if they had those concerns, so that your DAC presenter, for example, and you can find those on board docs. That's the way you'd find that, is under the board and then the policy section.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. No, thank you. Okay. Anything else regarding the mill levy or bond? Okay. All right, we'll move on. Policy discussion DM for the cash handling.
Madam President, this one is actually slated for second reading, correct, Deb?
No, this one is going back for discussion because at the last meeting, we wanted to find out what CASB had to say about,
Okay.
do we have to have a base policy? And if you've read the email attached, they said we do not have to have a base policy for a regulation to exist. So then the discussion is, do we move forward with policy DM or?
So if it's just discussion and we don't need a vote on it, correct?
Yeah, but I
Correct, Brad?
would prefer some guidance so I can come prepped for June.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody saw it, but in the question and answer, I commented about this particular policy.
Mhm.
And what I said was, there's not a need for this particular DM policy. However, a new policy KG requires a regulation such as DM-R as stated in its vision section and its guardrails section in bullet number 6. So if you're looking at needing or wanting a policy that requires or justifies the DM-R, I would suggest that it is the proposed KG policy that has not yet been approved, but is in the works.
Well, and we have first reading on KG and KGR coming up in the agenda, correct?
Right.
My understanding. Yep.
So are you just recommending we just leave this alone?
Yeah, if
We don't need it.
If we don't need it,
just-
then
we
let's
don't need
just
it, just drop it.
retire it. Yeah,
Yeah.
retire it and be done.
Okay. It's not a policy, so there's no reason to repeal it. We'll just take it off our books.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, policy discussion, DG school board policy process.
So
Back to that.
one of the, I proposed these changes. We already have BG as a policy and I proposed changes to it. And the reason being that when we had talked about first reading and second reading in the past, if I remember correctly, Mr. Miller confirmed that it only takes one vote to pass a policy. I also spoke with trying to understand what the first reading, second reading was all about. I spoke with I think his help me out here. Legislative aid, is that what he is? And so he helped me understand what they do in the Colorado House of Representatives, and that they use the practice of a first reading and second reading, and they vote both times. But if I'm not mistaken, they're not following Robert's Rules of Order. They're following House rules. Is that not correct?
Generally speaking, correct.
Yeah, so whereas we're following Robert's Rules of Order, and there is likely a difference there. So I'm making some suggestions here as to some changes in this policy. I also would be interested in adding the process, which I've been trying to submit new policies and edits to current policies, and I haven't known how to do that. And so I asked one person, and I get kind of a feel, and then I ask another person, I get kind of a feel, but there's no black and white, you need to do this step first, so everything's covered. And then you need to do this step after that, so everything's covered, and so on and so forth. And so I'm thinking that I also, or we also should add something in this editing that refers to that process. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. And then it's ready for presenting to the board or whatever. I would suggest those edits also be made, but that's kind of what led me to look at editing this particular policy. And in regard, well, never mind. I'll talk about it offline.
So just a question to that, Mr. Lynch. So we would have 2 meetings for just a presentation of proposal, basically, and then 2 meetings for vote before policy would become policy?
So the quickest way this would happen, you'd have the first meeting the first time it's presented as information, just to float it to the board and the community. And the second meeting, it would be presented for discussion after having been out there for some time, discussion by the board, and any edits, deletions, whatever changes could be made there. If no changes are made, then your next meeting, you could vote to adopt it. But if any changes were made, my suggestion is you put that changed document out for public and community review, so that not only we've had a chance, but they've had a chance to see those changes, and then we come back and see if we're ready to vote. And this means that there could be a drawn out process, especially in a policy where there's controversy, or if it's a long policy, it could go more than 2 meetings. It could go 4 meetings, but or longer. But the idea that I'm trying to suggest is that we have transparency, and we have the chance for community input on policy, because these are important. These affect a lot of people. And I believe it's important to offer the opportunity for the community to respond to us and give us feedback before we, what I would not like to see is that we come to a meeting, we send out an agenda on Monday that has a new policy in it, and Tuesday we adopt it. That's just not something I think we should do. But anyway, that's kind of the thinking behind the way I wrote this.
I don't have any problem with having the meetings like what you got on there and stuff and you know, I'm sure there's gonna be a real extreme incident maybe that it would take longer than that, but I can't imagine very many ever will.
President Noyes, I had a couple of points on there. First, I just wanted to confirm, when you say meetings in the policy, are you talking about work sessions could be included in this 4-meeting process?
I would assume
With
so.
the
I would hope
exception
so.
of the final vote.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I just felt like 4 was not very proactive for getting policy passed. But I do understand that the 3, the discussion, the first reading, the second reading, that all made sense to me. There's wording in there that says that we would accept community input by writing and at the board meeting. And I'm a number 1 advocate for transparency, and I always forward everything to you. But I really felt like that added a burden of proof to Mr. Burris and I to have to supply the public's comment. If we were to ever not find something, or if I went in our spam folder, that written version, I mean, if the person is standing there talking to you, it's your burden that you heard the comment and you gave the input. Where if it comes in from multiple different sources, there's no guarantee that I'm gonna 100% be able to get it to you. I liked that the community had input. I just didn't think the in writing part was good. And then there's a part towards the end that says 90 days for temporary policies. I think that's probably a really good idea, except for I think that we need to talk a little bit about the fact that we have a waived policy. I also see that waived policy, it's the policy that allows us to have a 4-day week. It's like IA-IA something, I can't remember. But I think we've done the 4-day week almost long enough to where we could make permanent changes and not have to have a waived policy. So, but that's just if we are gonna add this 90 days, I think maybe that's a later discussion on that waived policy. Thank you.
I
agree with
assume, Mike, that was the intent of that 4 meetings would count workshops.
Yes, and
So realistically, we're looking at basically 60 days, 2 months to.
and it doesn't, that I have 4 bullet points there, but it could be as little as 3. So
Right.
I was just trying to explain the possibility of more, not necessarily that it required 4.
Okay.
Sweet. I'm glad you answered that, because I was about to say, if that means 4, that seems a little excessive, and we kind of, I don't know. I think that we should make decisions a little bit quicker as well, because if we keep pushing policy off, then we have people coming in here asking us 90 days later why we haven't quite adopted stuff. And then we ran into other guardrails and other problems because we haven't adopted. I understand not adopting them fast, but we also need to do things in a timely manner, not wait,
Yep.
you know, an excessive amount of time either. So again, I'm just saying 2-sided coin, double-edged sword. Yeah.
The 90 days is a
No, I know. I was just saying, like, in an instance, sir,
Yeah.
just if it happened to go to 90 days, but we could actually do it and justify doing it in 30,
so
then we
could
should
have-
do it in
we
30.
could- in this, we could have adopted a policy and
3 meetings.
3
Yes, sir.
meetings, beginning with any one meeting.
Yeah.
So, and those could be 2 weeks apart. So in 4 weeks, we could have adopted a
6,
policy.
yeah, because 3 meetings, 1, 2 weeks, 2
One
weeks, 2
with
weeks,
2
yeah.
weeks in between,
Be
then
6.
2, and then 2 weeks in between, and then 3. So
Yeah.
3 meetings with 4 weeks in between.
Gotcha.
So 1 month is.
Yeah. Plus the time we have before
Good with that.
as well. So, okay.
Because there are instances where CASB will send us a new policy that something has changed with the state that we wouldn't have any direction to change anything. It's just one that we have to adopt. And that one could be in as little as just 2.
Yeah, or like we just did.
should be expecting CASB to send something around May 31st with some of the new legislative action that Mr. Rice has been telling us
If I
about.
could
Yeah.
say a couple words.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
please
you.
do.
So conventionally, most school districts in Colorado do this in a 2-meeting sequence for almost every policy adoption. And so this is a augmentation of that. And I appreciate, the thoughtfulness around the transparency side. I would urge you to make the best efforts, and perhaps this is by building a governance committee or a policy committee comprised of, a couple staff members and a couple board members, and do the heavy lifting of the sausage making prior to the first presentation of these policies. I've watched there's policies on your docket now that were on the docket the last time I was here, and I'm not here all the time. So there's something that is happening where we're having sort of serial edits on something. And what we want to do is start with having it right and ready to present rather than working it out piece by piece over multiple meetings. And so I urge you to consider doing something like that, where you get the right people together to work together and then present it. And then to President Noy's very good point and Deb's point, we're going to see some very substantial material, important policies that pass with legislation with safety clauses. So for example, Ed mentioned House Bill 1039, you got to adopt a policy around the non-legal name change bill. That bill is already in effect today, and you have to have a policy for it. So if you're waiting until September to get that done, you're behind the times. And CASB is going to give you 15 new policies at least out of this session. And most of them will need to be implemented before August, whenever you start school, 5th or 10th or whatever. So you might need to create a bypass for this so that you don't have to go 3 meetings. And I'd urge you to consider that.
Okay. Well, I already nominate Mike as part of that committee. Um, So is that something that the board wants to look at, possibly just having that committee? I see what you're saying, just to save time and to keep coming back.
I think that could help where Mike was talking about he isn't quite sure how to submit his edits, because we're going from a time where we had a community policy group that was pretty helpful to just me, to new board that's very interested in these changes. And so I'm not even quite sure what to offer to people. So we could look at the whole process. I would serve on that committee.
Yeah, you're pretty policyed up. You, yeah, if anybody, you know those policies.
Absolutely.
Well. So how do we want to move forward with this policy then? Which is for discussion. So do we want to?
You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, do you just want to?
I think in light of the discussion, I'd like to withdraw these edits, and that we put this through the new process that we're talking about, considering. And in either direction, I mean, in review of the discussion, this policy doesn't seem like it's anywhere near, and there's some things that are not certain about the language. So I would say that I would like to withdraw it for now and find a different path forward with it.
Okay. All right.
Both of these?
The BG.
Just the DG, yeah.
Yeah, just the.
I think it would be good. I think it would be good to get the other 2 people's input as well, slightly, just because I think it'd be only fair. Yeah.
So it's not like we don't have we have a BG policy.
Yeah, it's already there. Yes, sir. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes, sir. Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just kind of noticing this because it says DG when
And
you pull it up, it's BG.
I know, I saw that too. I was gonna ask, is it DG or BG? Because on the thing, it says DG, but under
It
public.
is BG.
It is, okay,
Okay.
thank you. I was just
Thank you
curious.
for catching
Yeah.
that.
Sherry got that one.
So technically, if we accepted this one, if we just use this as a reading, the first meeting, the proposal should be presented as an information item. We have a meeting coming up that's a work session.
Special meeting, yeah.
We could do the second reading then. And the third meeting, which is our next regularly scheduled board meeting, this could become policy.
In a month and a half.
Yeah. So
Oh, just a month.
being
Yeah, just a
different,
month.
Oh,
Yeah.
just,
Just a
being
month.
different from the current policy, the first and second reading need to happen on action meetings, not on workshop meetings, because under the current BG policy, you're voting in the first reading and the second reading. So you can't really vote in a workshop unless you
we
call
can
it
do
a
a
special.
special meeting.
Well,
If we
if this
knew
was
we had
first
that.
meeting and our workshop is second meeting, then you would vote on a third meeting,
Yeah,
which would be a regular
correct,
meeting.
correct.
Okay. And
Under this one.
yes,
And you're asking for a actual vote on first reading, not just acknowledgement that it's been read. You want an actual vote.
No, I do not.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll move forward with the new process. Then, okay, policy first reading KG support organizations.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Rhonda.
Would it be possible?
Oh. Okay, yes, let's take a break and come back at 8:20. It's 8:11 now.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's convene back into our regular meeting at 8:20, Deb.
Do you remember the time we released? Because I wrote
8:11.
I wrote 8:20. Okay, thank you. Very generous of you to give us 9 minutes.
Okay, so
that's all.
item E, which is the policy first reading KG support organizations.
Mr. Lynch was in the other day and made some pretty substantial changes to this, so if we're back to first reading, if we can get this one done at the next board meeting, I can get it out to coaches and organizations. Or as suggested by Mr. Miller in discussion today, I could actually take this one the way it is and give it out before school's out. Because it's substantially done. I don't think we've massaged this one pretty thoroughly. And I think we're probably at the point where we can pass it.
I think they need to have it before school's out, I think, but.
I agree.
I'm gonna turn you on. I go.
And the regulation, which is the next one, I'll speak to that. Brad, you were gonna run that by your team.
On the dash R, I actually had a recommendation that we not adopt it as drafted. And I don't remember what was exactly in play there, but
Can I,
yeah, please.
I believe we had a discussion about this on one of the morning sessions, and my recollection of that discussion was I think you told us that KG was good with the changes that had been made. It took away some of the concerns that were there before, and KGR you suggested that we handle differently, and that you had offered to even put something together with a different language for KGR. And my impression was that our KGR was probably not going to work out.
Thanks for the reminder. It's sitting on the desk of one of my many minions, and did. So Joshua has some suggestions for me, and we also spoke about that a -R, and this is for future discussion by the board, but in many instances, we leave regulation adoption to the administration rather than to the board, because it's not a policy technically, and it's operational, and it needs to have some flex and so forth. So we were going to have that further discussion as well.
Mhm.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions on the KG? Okay, moving on to policy first reading KGR support organizations. So
Well,
with that
let
being
Brad
said,
have it.
yeah,
Yeah.
with that being said.
Okay.
Okay. All righty, moving on to action items, consent calendar.
Madam President, I recommend that we approve the consent calendar as presented to the board.
You get a motion for
I make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as for what we see.
Second.
Oh, any discussion? Yeah. I just kind of expect anybody to. Yeah, do we have any discussion on that?
So I take it we're gonna have a real session.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes, we are. I'm excited. about that.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yes,
there it is. Okay.
Online voting is now available. Motion passes unanimously.
all right. Can I get a motion for the capital reserve request for the 2023-2024 Mesa Elementary School concrete project for $20,560?
Madam President, I recommend that the Mesa Elementary School concrete project be approved in the cost of $20,560.
And this is a cap reserve, so it'll need to be read.
Right now.
Mhm.
Okay. Data request, May 21st, 2024, amount requested $20,000, $20,560. Funds available, $1,218,289.52. Project description, Mesa Elementary School concrete project for health and safety. Rational request, additional concrete sidewalk to the playground retaining wall and reverse bench for safety of students. Multiple bids provided, business office confirms funds are available, and project coordinated with the maintenance department. Whereas the admin has needed $20,560 to build a concrete sidewalk and retaining wall and reverse bench at Mesa Elementary School. Now therefore it be resolved that $20,560 is authorized for expenditure from the Capital Reserve Fund. And I make a motion to accept this Capital Reserve Fund for Mesa Elementary concrete work.
Okay. Got it. Any discussion?
Yes.
Nope.
Okay. Online voting is now available. Are you able to see the online voting? Oh, there it comes through. It took a second.
Yeah, it's being slow right now.
Motion passes unanimously.
Alrighty, action item C, capital reserve request for 2023-2024 MCHS access control for $25,631.73.
This actually comes out of a safety grant, correct, Eddie? Where's this?
It's a combination between.
Okay.
And
And
safety.
Okay. Madam President, I recommend the capital reserve request for MCHS access control in the amount of $25,631.73 be approved.
Date of request, May 21st, 2024. Amount requested, $25,631.73. Funds available, $1,197,729.52. Project description, MCHS access control for health and safety. Rational request, additional for the access control for MCHS. Business offices confirmed funds are available and project coordinated with maintenance department. Whereas the administration has needed $25,631.73 to install access control system at MCHS. Now therefore be it resolved that $25,631.73 is authorized for expenditure from the capital reserved fund. I make a motion that we accept the MCHS access control installation from the capital reserve fund.
Second.
Any questions or discussions?
Online voting is now available.
May I ask a legal question while you're here, Mr. Miller? I've always seen in this district that the capital reserve documentation was read. Is that a requirement that
It's published on your board docs, correct?
it is?
You can just make a motion to approve at, basically the line that I see on my, up here is all you really need to move.
Okay,
Sweet. That's
Well,
fine.
I think, Rafe, you decided to just read a little bit for
Yeah,
just
I
the
just
purpose
read
of
it, yeah.
people that were maybe listening and couldn't read something.
Helpful on cover sheets going forward to have maybe just a brief narrative to describe these things.
right,
I can just shorten it down and read the last part.
okay.
All but one vote's in. Were you able to vote, Ms. Tracy?
Yeah, it didn't show up.
How do you vote?
No, there it
Oh,
is.
okay. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, action item D, capital reserve request for 2024-2025, 2 school buses for school year 24-25, $308,532.
Madam President, I would like to recommend that we approve the 2 school buses for the 24-25 school year in the amount of $308,532. Mr. Eldridge, did we not receive $60,000 for the wrecked bus?
We did.
Okay, so that will replace $60,000.
Replace the whole bus and then also got that 97.
Right. Okay,
So I'll just read an abridged version from now on. Whereas the administration has the need of $308,000 or $308,532 to purchase 2 new school buses. Now therefore be it resolved that $308,532 is authorized for the expenditure from the capital reserve fund. And I make a motion to accept the capital reserve fund of the purchase of 2 buses at the tune of $308,532.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions?
Hey, Brad, how much do you think you can sell the 97 for, the other bus?
About 1,500.
Okay. I'm just curious, like, that's honest. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Pushing just because it's a great big bus, it doesn't have all the electronics.
Okay.
I think Dolores just sold 4 and they average 1,500 a piece.
yeah.
Well, hey, they're old. They don't have DPF.
Okay.
Use it for,
Are these new ones diesel, Brad?
Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
They are.
Okay.
Online voting is now available. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, action item E, supplemental budget for this fiscal year 23-24, the COSI 1919.
Madam President, I recommend that we approve the supplemental budget for the COSI grant 1919.
Cozy Grant 2023 supplemental budget, staff stipends for meetings with at-risk seniors and testing celebration/initiatives at the tune of $35,000. I make a motion that we accept the Cozy 1919 grant at the tune of $35,000.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on any of this?
Yes, can you explain this a little bit more, Mr. Burris, about what this, I'm a little bit confused where it's 23-24 school year, we're at the end of the school year.
Dean left and he was.
Yeah,
he was
I
on
know.
this.
So
Darn it. Eddie, do you know about this? Jim, do you know about it?
have we already paid this out during the year and now we're getting a grant that's going to reimburse us? Is that what this is, or?
It's kind of what it looks
The
like.
general budget was hit and then it'd be a general vote and if the board approves this tonight.
So,
this is the budget.
so this money's just gonna come back in to our funds, basically. It's already been, since it was for the 23-24 school year, it's already been done. That's what was a little bit confusing on that to me as to what it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it looks like for, because there were salaries and benefits in there, so.
Some stipends and some celebration incentives.
Okay.
Does the attachment tell us what the acronym COSI stands for? I thought it had something to do with counseling. I can't always see the attachment.
It doesn't, it
No.
doesn't. It just
It
says
doesn't.
Cozy Grant, and then it says for at-risk seniors and testing celebration incentives, but it doesn't say anything about really what it is.
It's the Colorado Opportunity Scholarship Initiative.
Thank you. Well, with all that information, online voting is now available. Motion passes unanimously.
All righty. All right, then. Well, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:35.